Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from Alex Merced Coder, and in the last video we were going over like a lot of the functions of the FMT library, and basically what I wanted to do was figure out how to take input. So we knew how to print information onto the screen, but how do we take input? Because that can also be useful for creating like applications that are command line applications. Now, originally we were just using FMT, which allows us to print. And I mentioned there's like fprint, and then there was ones without the F. Another thing I didn't mention, F, when you're putting in that OS standard out object, technically the OS library allows you to interact with the operating system sort of functions. So like making files, making folders, writing to files, reading from files. So that's what this library is all about. This offers sort of input and output functions, so that way you can read text going in out of output, and then this library here, strings, is for working with strings. So I have all these 4 packages loaded in because to take input we need all 4 libraries. So I just wanted to kind of just summarize what each one sort of what the thrust is, so that way you know what to look for when you're looking for a particular function. And I'm reading over this tutorial over like how to take input, because that kind of explains sort of what I need to do. So first, let's copy this piece of code here and walk through what it does. Okay, so this appears above the main function, so I'm gonna put that right over here. Oh. There we go. So what this does, it creates a variable called reader, and reader equals a new reader. So basically this function new reader creates a new reader object and passes in the standard input from the OS library to set that up. So that way basically the operating system is able to pass in input to this reader that'll read the input, who's created by the bufio library. And that's all going to be stored in this variable called reader. Okay, then we're going to print a line, simple shell. That's just printing it, showing, okay, here we're creating a simple shell program, and then here we're just putting some lines to separate it before we actually take input. Now let's go to the next couple lines. I'm going to just copy all this. Oh no, this is all in the main function, so let me just do this. Delete this. This doesn't need to be there. It actually needs to be inside the main function. Okay, so again, this creates the reader object, this prints the line, and then what this is going to do is just create a infinite loop. So that's why it says for without any kind of conditions. It's an infinite loop because that's what a command line program generally is. It's a program that just loops over asking you for input and then takes actions based on that input. So basically it says here format print, and notice it doesn't do print line, because usually when you're talking about a command line program, you see the little symbol. Like if I take a look over here, I see the $sign, but then I'm able to enter text on the same line. So that's what that means. And then here we're using that reader variable that we created, and we're using a function of this interface. So there's an interface called, I think the interface is just like reader or writer, and it implements this function here, this method read string, which allows you to read based on the standard input of that OS. So essentially this is just saying, hey, read this, and there's a new line after the string, so that way it pops onto the next line. Cool. So then that text gets saved into here. Now again, I think here you're able to like save an error if there's a problem, but that's zeroed out at the moment. So here we have text. We're taking that text that we took in from the input, and what we're doing is we're just replacing this string with this. Not sure what the -1 is doing. Okay, I'll have to go back and take a look at what that function does. But basically just taking the new character stuff out of our input, so that way we can use the input. Okay, now here we actually compare the string. So if strings.compare, if the text equals high, then, and 0 meaning 0 and 1 being true and false. Okay, so if it equals 0, meaning you said high, then it'll take this action. So then basically here you just put a bunch of if statements on different command line commands, and you're good. So let's test this out. So if we save this, let's run the code. And see, it's asking me for input. Then if I put in hi, hello yourself. Neat. Now we can do some more cooler stuff with this. So let's say I wanted to actually print, take this off. And instead of doing it as a conditional, we're just going to print whatever you put in there. Okay, so in that case, we'll just do a print fmt.print line text. Okay, and this is just going to keep looping. You're just basically taking input, printing it onto the screen. So I'm going to hit Control C to end the previous run. We'll run the code again. Now if I type in a bunch of gibberish, it then prints that gibberish. Don't copy me. Okay, so that's that. So again, basically, you do need these 4 libraries in this pattern to be able to sit there and create like a command line application using Go. Nothing too crazy. That's actually pretty straightforward. And then you just do what you got to do to allow people to interact with the program. And then if you want to save stuff to a file, you'll look deeper into what this library does, the OS library. And then again, we'll explore the strings thing more, so we can talk more about how to manipulate strings and whatnot in the next video. Neat.